Following the very successful International Thirukkural Conference, organized jointly by the International Thirukkural Foundation, Mauritius, and the Tamil Valarchi Mandram in 2019 in Sydney, in association with Sydney University, with an underpinning theme, Thirukkural and Peace and Harmony. Both organizations were engaged to host an online conference in 2020, again with a new theme, Thirukkural and Multiculturalism, in association with SRM University during the pandemic period. These conferences have strengthened the thoughts of Dr. Armugam Parasuraman to make a regular program, and to every year on a Thiruvalluvar Day, as well as then he decided to run every month a conference calling all the eminent speakers to submit their speeches and to enrich the literature so that Thirukkural can go to UNESCO. Understanding the Thirukkural's multiculturalism and its nature of universal literature, Dr. Armugam Parasuraman has initiated these online speeches every month. Now it's going to be twice a month. The purpose is to identify the role and value of Thirukkural in promoting universality, understand the importance of Thirukkural as a universal literature, creation of action plan to encourage learning Thirukkural among the next generation, to celebrate and promote Thirukkural and Thiruvalluvar in the world, to take Thirukkural as a universal literature to the UNESCO. The main organizers are Dr. Armugam Parasuraman, President of the International Thirukkural Foundation, Mauritius; Dr. Chandrika Subramaniam, that's me, founder, Tamil Valarchi Mandram, Australia; Mr. Rajendran, founder, coordinator of Voice of Valluvar Family, Chennai; Mr. Partha from Vali Tamil. With this introduction, may I now ask Dr. Armugam Parasuraman to continue to coordinate this program. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chandrika. I would like, on behalf of the International Thirukkural Foundation, the Tamil Valarchi Mandram, Voice of Valluvar Family, and Vali Tamil, Chennai, to express our deepest gratitude to Dr. Balakrishnan for so graciously agreeing to the invitation which Mr. Rajendran had extended to him on our behalf, and we were eagerly waiting for him to join us for this, I'm sure will be very illuminating presentation by him. And so we are very happy and grateful to you, Dr. Balakrishnan. I would like to thank all the participants also who are joining us and who have been following us for our past 5 conferences. This is the 6th international conference, and the overarching theme is International Thirukkural Conference, and we're Thirukkural and UNESCO for World Peace. And today we are going to listen to Dr. Balakrishnan, who is himself an eminent personality in the field, where he will be talking about Thirukkural itself. He's also an active member of the Voice of Valluvar. But he will be enlightening us on the UN Sustainable Development Goals, the 7 Sustainable Development Goals, and the Thirukkural perspective. That, I think, is certainly a very, very appropriate theme that will connect us with the UN, and in particular with UNESCO. And in fact, you know, just a brief line about the SDG, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, adopted by all the United Nations member states in 2015, provides a shared blueprint for peace and prosperity for people and the planet, now and into the future. At its heart are the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which are an urgent call for action by all countries, developing in a global partnership. They recognize that ending poverty and other deprivation must go hand in hand with strategies that improve health and education, reduce inequality, and spur economic growth, all while tackling climate change and working to preserve our oceans and forests. That's the overarching vision of the United Nations when they adopted this 17 SDGs. And I think Thirukkural, as we all know, I would just refer to a few examples of quotations on Thirukkural. which have been expressed over the centuries. I would start with Valluvar, who said Thirukkural pierced an atom and injected 7 C's into it and compressed it into what we have today as kural. If we listen to Ariel, the French translator of Thirukkural, he talks of the masterpiece of Tamil literature, one of the highest and purest expressions of human thought. And Subramanya Bharati talk of Tamil Nadu as given Valluvar unto the world, and has thereby won great renown. Mahatma Gandhi talks of his textbooks of indispensable authority on moral life. The maxims of Valluvar have touched my soul. There is none who has given such a treasure of wisdom like him. I believe these quotations are very, very uplifting when we look at, and Abdul Kalam, a very famous former president of the Republic, late Abdul Kalam said, Thirukkural is considered to provide the code of conduct for the humanity of the planet Earth for all time, which makes the past meet the present and creates the future. And my last quote will be from Alexander Piatigorsky, who says, Thiruvallur is rightly considered as chief chef-d'oeuvre of both Indian and world literature. This is due not only to the great artistic merits of the work, but also to the lofty human ideas permeating it, which are equally precious to the people all over the world, of all periods and of all countries. And I think Albert Schweitzer, there hardly exists in the literature of the world a collection of maxims in which we find so much of lofty wisdom. I believe all these put together give us the right sort of platform to take Thirukkural to the world. And it is in that context that I'm very happy and honored. We are all very happy and honored to have Dr. Balakrishnan as our chief guest addressing us on this very important topic. We are also very, very happy to welcome respected Justice Mahadevan. Dr. Balakrishnan, we are very happy that Justice Mahadevan has joined us for this lecture. He is also one of the inspiration behind the work we are doing, especially after he has produced the judgment on Thirukkural, you know, this very unique landmark judgment on Thirukkural and the judgment and the solution, as we have coined that. Well, let me introduce Dr. Balakrishnan now. Although he's already a very well-known personality in India and in the world. He started as an IAS, served as IAS officer in Odisha, Cadre, 1984 batch, and retired in 2018 after 34 years of service. He is from a place called Nattam, near Madurai in Tamil Nadu. He had his graduation and post-graduation in Tamil literature. He is the first student of Tamil literature to clear the coveted civil service exams, that too in his first attempt in 1984. Currently the Chief Advisor, CMO, Odisha, and also Chief Advisor, Special Initiatives. Dr. Balakrishnan, author of Journey of a Civilization, Indus to Vaigai, is an Indologist and has been consistently working in this field for the last 30 years. He follows a multidisciplinary approach to map the post-Indus migrations and trace the carried forward legacies of the Harappan culture. After 2 decades of research, he now firmly subscribes to the Dravidian hypothesis on the linguistic affinity of the authors of the Indus Valley civilization. He considers the Sangam Tamil corpus of the literature to be the legacy holder of the Indus civilization. He has presented multiple case studies to prove that identical place names clusters can be scientifically used as makers for ancient migration. His publication, The High West, Low East, Ecotomy of Indus Cities, a Dravidian paradigm, is considered one of the most significant evidence adduced in favor of the Dravidian hypothesis. His Tamil book on Indus Valley civilization has created widespread awareness and is among the best sellers. Renowned Indus scholars, Iravatam Mahadevan, has hailed this book as the most remarkable among the Tamil works published so far on this subject. His views on Indus Valley civilization and place name evidences are part of school curriculum in Tamil Nadu. His latest book, Journey of a Civilization into Indus, Journey of a Civilization Indus to Vaigai, and I am proudly showing a copy which I was gifted by him through a good friend, Ramkumar in Mauritius, Indian High Commission. Well, this was launched on 16 December 2019. He was awarded Doctors of Letters honoris causa by Periyar Maniammai University for his contribution in the field of Indology, and particularly his work on Indus Valley civilization. He is the honorary consultant of Indus Research Center, Chennai, founded by Iravatam Mahadevan. He has done extensive research on the multi-layered prehistory and cultural heritage of Odisha. His recent book, Abad Padachinha, is the Odia translation of his research articles on Odisha, its history, culture, and heritage. I'll conclude by saying that Dr. Balakrishnan is a creative writer in Tamil. His publication, Anbulla Amma, 91, Siragukkul Vanam, 2012, Nattu Kural, 2016, Panmaya Kalvan, 2018, Irandan Suru, 2018, Kunreina Nimirndu, Nil, 2018. He's a lyricist, and his album, inspired by Thirukkural, is a huge success. I don't think I need to introduce any more, but it was fitting for me to pay due tribute to such a distinguished friend of such distinguished son of India, but also such a distinguished disciple of Valluvar. I now leave the floor to you, Dr. Balakrishnan, to inspire us and to take us on this journey of the SDGs and the kural perspective, but I'm sure you're going to take us to the UN and take us to UNESCO. Thank you very much.
Vanakkam, good morning to everybody. Respected Arumugam Parasuraman, former director UNESCO and the former minister of Mauritius, whom we know since long, and I'm glad to be invited to this program. Honorable Justice Mahadevan, who has been a pillar of strength for all of us, associated with everything what I do. He released the Thirukkural album. He released the Journey of Civilization book, which you are holding. And then, as you pointed out, that his landmark judgment will be always remembered by Tamil society. My dear friend C. Rajendran, the founder of the Valluvar Kudumbam, of which I am a member. My friends from Valluvar Kudumbam, Elena Christopher, and Janasegaran, and Chandrika Subramaniam, who introduced, and all the other participants, organization. I'm indeed glad and happy to be here. In fact, we are not in that good shape, and with the cyclone just gone, and I had to postpone this meeting yesterday as we had a cabinet meeting, the Council of Ministers meeting suddenly fixed up yesterday. We had to last moment postpone it, and bear with me for that. And today we chose this particular topic to discuss about development goals and Valluvar's perspective. I will put this in context. It is pandemic times, and we are the world is seeing a new reality, painful reality. And then in this reality, the poor suffer more. I mean, poor country suffer more, poor societies suffer more, poor families are suffering more, poor individuals are suffering more. Lockdown means different thing to different people. For somebody, a denial of luxury. For somebody, is a denial of livelihood. And then again, this pandemic proved to be a great leveler, changing priorities. What was considered to be unimportant, now looking important. How meaningless the wills written and the bank balances accumulated, and then wrong deeds did. And suddenly people are wanting to be just breathe, to see the another day, to dignity, buried with the dignity. And this new realization, disasters hold mirror. We find new things. Disasters brings out heroes, villains, and jokers within ourselves. abnormal gets a new name that is called new normal. This is the background in which we are approaching this particular topic, the developmental goals and the Valluvar's perspective. And I will first put the boundaries for this talk. What this talk aims at. Explore Thirukkural in the light of the challenges of modern times. So how the problems confronted 2000 years back still remain relevant, and certain views of Valluvar are absolutely relevant even now. Argue that some of the important values Valluvar highlighted were most likely homegrown and rooted in certain societal values advocated in Sangam text. I won't spend much time on it, but at the same time, I would be consciously telling this multicultural, the universal wisdom, Thirukkural, which did not mention about the language in which written, the land in which is written, country in which written, the rivers which was flowing. He denied every identity. He is an identity beyond identity. The greatest strength for a plural society and the multicultural world is the Valluvar's steadfastly refusing to identify himself. There remains his. So it's easy to compare Thiruvallur with Aristotle, Socrates, Buddhism, Jainism, Shastras and whatnot. But then why not, I would rather say Thiruvallur, if you read, say, the Roman literature, would not have failed to read the Sangam literature. I would like to see it in the rootedness. And then, and at the same time, I'm not going to deny the synthesis of multiple streams of thought processes that probably saved the Thiruvallur. But what this talk does not aim at, I would like to draw the boundary. I won't argue Thirukkural is a one-stop solution. No book can really be a one-stop solution. There are certain points. People come out and suddenly say that the Thirukkural, this particular Thirukkural is against the feminism. It's easy to say. But then you have to evaluate a particular literature in a historical context. The voice of dissent, which is Thiruvallur, is rising when the monarchs were ruling on behalf of the people. That means the Thiruvallur is the man and the literature of the last man, literature of the last mile, and it is a voice against the voice of dissent and the voice of the powers to be. So that means I won't match the sustainable developmental goals of UN, 17 goals, and one-to-one with the Thirukkural. That is not, I'm not going to do that. Valluvar does not require such an endorsement, and that would be unsustainable. I put it that in a very purpose way, it will be UN sustainable. So that will be more practicable. So that way we will touch upon. Let me first introduce the Sustainable Development Goals. And of all the statements available in the UN Foundation, and I have read it earlier also because as a finance secretary and the secretary of the Planning and Convergence Department dealt with 5-6 budgets, I have already gone through, I have dealt with this Sustainable Developmental Goal from the Orissa's perspective, and I was interacting many times with the Niti Aayog and other authorities in the Indian authorities. At that time itself, I have noticed this particular quote. There is no plan B because we do not have a planet B. We have to work and galvanize our action. That means when we deal with a disaster, when we deal with a cyclone, we always have a worst case scenario, a best case scenario, and a most probable scenario. There is always a plan B we have. Even for the COVID, we have many scenarios crisscrossing in our mind. But when you deal with this Sustainable Development Goal, a powerful statement, I tell you, this statement I consider for a UN-like organization, neutral, soft spoken, and not given to use for very emotional and strong statement. I consider this as one of the most powerful, straightforward statement made by the UN, saying that there is no plan B because there is no planet B. That means now or never kind of scenario. Okay, what is such an urgency? Is it a new urgency? Then the member states adapted. I have dealt with at some point of time with a 20-point program when we joined service. Then we dealt with the Haribi Khato, the poverty removal, Varumai Olipo. We have dealt with the Millennium Development Goal of United Nations. Then after that came the UN Agenda 2030, the Sustainable Development Goal, 17 goals, broken into 169 targets and to be implemented in 15 years. It's a broadly putting all these 17s with the logo. If you really put it, all these three, it turn around to be the three pillars. The sustainable development goals can be broadly categorized in these three: economic, social, environment. These are the three particular overlapping circles within which these particular these three the things are dealt with. So then I am also going to deal in that particular way from the Thirukkural's point of view. Economics, how he talks about poverty, distributive justice, harmless wealth. Environmental, natural resources, respect for all form of life, and then the political and societal natural environment. Social, farmers, importance of farmers, agriculture, importance of family life, education, health, importance of citizens, dignity of labor. If you put all these three in these particular three circles, you will be probably covering almost all the 17 sustainable goal overlapping circles. Then let me first deal with the poverty. I'm not going to, that's as I already told that I'm not going to deal with all the 17 one by one and match it with the Thirukkural. That's not my job. I'm going to tell the important salient features. The problem of poverty, Thirukkural talks about the problem of poverty is more about defining what is poverty in today's context. You must have seen any number of theories about the poverty line. The poverty line itself, there is no stability. All type of economics and the people, governments and the haves and have-nots and north-south dialogues, the UN economists and the WHO and the World Bank people, government people, everybody making absolutely different statements and what is poverty line. Politics and economics of poverty line. Poverty line is a politics. Poverty lies is an economics. Poverty line is an election. Poverty line is a victory. Poverty is a business, actually. There has been more debates, more theories, and more doctoral theses about poverty than the decisive access. Poverty is unfortunately location specific. Your poverty is not my poverty. America's poverty is not Africa's poverty. Orissa's poverty is not somebody else's poverty. Poverty is unfortunately location specific, which is not supposed to be. That is where Thirukkural stands out. And hunger is measured in related terms. And then hunger will be calculating that this calorie, that calorie, this nutrition, and finally they come out with a minuscule and like a kind of chemical balance and comes out with the theories. North, south, first and third worlds, rich and poor, poverty amidst plenty. So this is the kind of dichotomies we are looking at it. Then Thirukkural deals with the poverty. I don't think one of the most powerful statements made on poverty. Let me tell you, inmayin innadadu yadanin, inmayin inmaye innadadu. It's not a play with the words. It's not a play with the emotion. It's an economics. It's a sociology. It is politics. It's a voice of a lost man. It's a voice of a hungry stomach. Nothing is cruel like poverty, but poverty. There is no greater cruelty. There is no greater harm than the poverty itself. You cannot compare with poverty. It's a poverty like a hell. You can't say. You cannot say a poverty like a fire. Or you cannot say poverty is like this and that. Poverty can be explained only with the poverty. If there is something worse than that, that also poverty only. So, inmayin innadadu yadanin, inmayin inmaye innadadu. I consider this to be one of the extraordinary, brilliant way of defining poverty. That means poverty cannot be told in terms of calorie, and poverty cannot be measured in terms of the without giving a thing to the dignity. And then Valluvar comes, poverty and hunger. Valluvar clearly identifies poverty as the source of all miseries. There are miseries in the world. Then there has to be a source. There has to be a source code. Poverty is the source of all miseries. Nalgiravu ennum idumbayil palgurai thumbangal sendru padum. There are so many miseries. but all can be traced to one misery. That is ultimate misery. That is the source code of all the misery. That is called poverty. The misery of poverty brings in its train many miseries. Men may slumber, he can sleep, even in the midst of a fire, but none can find repose in poverty's presence. Can you have a powerful statement? Niripinil tunjalum agum, nirapinil yadondrum kanbaadu aridu. That means you can fire, you can sleep in a house which is going through a fire, but you cannot, poverty will not allow you to sleep. This is the time, this pandemic time. I recall last year, I'm telling you, everybody who has seen those visuals must suffer from guilty feeling. Thousands of people walking in the highways of India, and then they are wanting to reach their house 1,000 kilometers away, 1,500 kilometers away, putting the child on in the suitcase with a wheel, and then trying and thinking that they will walk their way back to Bihar and Orissa and Jharkhand and whatnot. So then comes the question. Okay, you blame poverty for whom? Okay, somebody can say poverty is a karma. Somebody say that then that is what your last karma. You have done something wrong because you are now suffering from poverty. Okay, I am going in a plane because I did something last birth good. Okay, you are walking in the road because you did something wrong. Okay, probably you may get something in the next birth. No, that's an absolute nonsense. Valluvar does not put the onus. Okay, you can always blame. I tell you, there are people who blame the poor people for the poverty. There are people who grudge the free meals. They call it a freebie. They use the very slanderous languages. They have a lot of problem with the subsidy being given to the food. They have a problem with the shop which we have opened for the agar. 5 rupees you have a full meal. Or the free ration. And people talk against it. But they don't talk against the crores and crores of people being waived by the bank for the multi-millionaires and billionaires. That is the public money. So that means on whom the onus of the poverty lies. I don't think, again, I consider Valluvar puts the onus not only on the individual. Okay, he talks about the individual. He must work hard. If you don't go to your field and work, nilamennum nallal nagum, you have to really put effort. Even if the God fails, if you make a hard work, then you will get at least a bare minimum wage for your hard work. He puts the duty of the individual, duty of a family, duty of a community, duty of a society, duty of a king and governance, and duty of everybody. But I consider this Thirukkural as the ultimate statement ever made. If you find a man begging, he has to only live the next meal only by begging. If the creator of the world has decreed even begging as a means of livelihood, may he too be a begging and perish, let him go to hell. That means, look at this statement. That means, normally we believe that there is a creator God. Okay, you take this particular Ulaga Yetriyan, it can be interpreted in 2 ways. Because Irai, Makkatti Irai Enapadum, Irai என்பது God. Irai also is the ruler. Koil is the house of God. Koil is also Aranmane, the house of the king. So Irai is the tax imposed by the king is called Irai. Because it's imposed by Iraivan. So God, there is a meeting point of the God and ruler. This poetry, whether you take it as a creator God, or a created of rule, or a king, or a elected government, the Valluvar's judgment is very, very clear. If somebody has to beg on road, let the creator go to hell. Let him also beg. So this is the greatest statement. Something is wrong with you guys, he says. There is something terribly wrong. So we will see why he comes to this particular conclusion. So this is onus on poverty, he puts it. Why he puts it this way? Valluvar places the onus for the welfare of people on the state. It's a welfare government he is talking about. King those days. It was not, in Valluvar days, there was not democracy. Imagine, democracy, WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter, you can speak and you face a problem also. And then you can still make an opinion and you can make noise and you can elect somebody, defeat somebody. But then king can be very cruel. he can simply remove the head. Even in those days, when the monarchy time, Valluvar is making a statement on behalf of the citizen. Vaanokki vaalum ulagallam mannavan kol nookki vaalum kudi. That means whether you take Ulagu as a ida aguvaya, essentially geography and people and citizen. Ulagu oor sirithadu mean it is basically the people in the oor. Like that, here it is both geography and demography. The world is looking for the rain. If there is no rain, drought, the world suffers. But the same way, people are looking up to the king, ruler. Kudidali kolechum manila mannan. He has to be considerate. He has to be compassionate. He has to have a parivu. He has to have karunai. Inmayin innadu udamai. Okay, you just now recall the kural number 140, which I first quoted. That's one of the greatest Thirukkural on the defining poverty. Here he, 1041, here he comes out with another theory. He says, poverty gives more sorrow than, property gives more sorrow than poverty to those who live under the rule of a king without justice. Suppose, first he said, there is no greater misery than the poverty. There is no equal. But here he says, the poverty is better than the property a fellow will be holding under a wrong king, under a misrule. That means his wealth itself will become his enemy. The wealth itself will become the misery because the king is wrong. So that means this particular dichotomy, this oxymoron, this Muran, I consider it an extraordinary political thought. On one side, you say there is nothing like a poverty. On the other side, is that property is worse than a poverty if your king is not good. So, phenomenal. I consider this particular thought as a phenomenal thought process. Then, there is a huge difference. Let us understand in the current point of view, be it in Africa. Today, Yemen is suffering. And then we know that the famine of Bengal in 1940s, the Orissa Bengal famine. And we know that Tadu versus Punjab in Tamil Mr. Retd. And in Orissa also we had a huge kind of famine in 1876. There's a novel has been written by Fakim Senapati. And then a lot of literature has been written. You know that all those famine, Bengal famine, the shiploads of the grain, food grain was waiting in the Paradip port. But still that was not ordered to be distributed. And many a time when the people suffer from hunger, in the food corporation godowns, there will be lakhs and lakhs of bags of the rice will be there. It is not about the non-availability of the grain. It is not about the production of the grain. It is about the distribution. That means there is a huge difference between the reduction in poverty and elimination of hunger. You can say this many percentage of people were poverty, now this many people. And this was the per capita income. This is a per capita income. All these calculations of the GDP, GSTP, gross domestic product, net gross domestic product, and then the gross national product, and then the per capita income, all these things are fine. But the end of the day, the measurement is whether somebody is going without food. That is the ultimate. There is no easy solution. Let us face it. There is no easy solution. Elimination of poverty, Valluvar says, is not talks about the reduction of the poverty. Atrar alibasi tirtal akudu oruvan porul vaipuri. He is giving a suggestion. Where do you deposit your money? You have a surplus. Would you put it in the FD? Will you put it in the mutual fund? Will you trade in the Wall Street or Dalal Street? Or keep seeing the Sensex, indexes, Nippon index, everything? But he says that all fine, be happy. But the removal of killing, hunger of the poor is the place for one lay up his wealth. Probably you can deposit some money in the stomach of the hungry man, starving man. Have you ever had a literature which is asking a man which is having a surplus, deposit in the hungry, starving stomach? ஆற்றுவார் ஆற்றல் பசி ஆற்றல் அப்பசியை மாற்றுவார் ஆற்றலின் பின். The power of those who perform penance is the power of enduring hunger. It is inferior to the power of those who remove the hunger. Normally we celebrate the saint, we celebrate Samiyars, we celebrate the godman, and we go and put our money there because he is a 200-year-old, he is putting a penance, he is not having food, he is living only with the water, all this thing. You know what? That is the reason I call Valluvar, I never put it in any other bracket. Valluvar is a Kalaga kural. Valluvar is the voice of a dissent. Valluvar is the voice of a lost man. He says, you may be a great saint. Your merit is that I have not eaten for 7 days. I am still living in my energy. I have not eaten for 30 days and I am living for a great energy. So everybody goes and no, he has not eaten for 1 month. But he says, your power is nothing before the power of a fellow. He removed the power, another fellow's hunger. That means the fellow is basically tolerating his hunger and doing the penance is not a greater guy than the man who is quenching the thirst or the filling the stomach of another man. I don't think any other literature has made such a statement. Compare this with the Kural 104. இன்மையின் இன்னாது உடைமை முறை செய்யா மன்னவர் கோட்படின். இது ரெண்டையும் கம்பேர் பண்ணா there is a greater misery than being under a misrule. And comparing with the saint and the food givers, it's a great revolutionary statement. I consider in today's world this is what we want. Yemen people are not having food. In Sudan we keep seeing it. In Ethiopia we had seen some time back. In Sudan some part of the Sudan is suffering. And then many places, I'll tell you the life in Yemen, you just cannot believe. You just can't believe. And Pavuttundu Palluyir Ombudal, distributive justice. Ultimately, Valluvar identifies poverty, Valluvar identifies the hunger. Then, okay, productivity is fine. Increasing the GDP of a nation is fine. And commodity trading is fine. And the stock exchange is fine. Trading on the futures is fine. Hedging is fine. Insurance is fine. But at the end of the day, it is all about the distributive justice. Paguttundu Palluyir Ombudal, Nulo Toguttavattrul Ellam Thalai. The first virtues in every creed is to share your food and cherish all life. The worthy work and earn wealth in order to help others. Kaalaatti Tanda Porulallam Takkarku Velanmai Seidar Poruttu. The only gift is giving to the poor, all else is exchange. Variyar kondu ivade igai, matrallam kuriyadirpai neeradudaithu. Today, somebody goes and makes a donation and makes a big advertisement out of it. Or somebody makes a charity or make a big shout and makes a tax saving plan. Or going and giving and thinking that he is going to be a so-and-so. Oh, he is likely to win the election. Okay, go and make him a donation and become is a friend of him. And even go to a marriage and give a gift. You know that he will attend your marriage and your family marriage. If you give a gift of 1,000 rupees, he will feel obliged to give a gift of 1,500 rupees. That is called moi. That is called gift. And Valluvar says, what you are giving to the poor is only the gift. Rest all is the exchange. Rest all is the calculation. Rest all is a business. It's a give and take. It's a balance sheet. This is what Valluvar talks about. So that is the difference between a balance sheet, a exchange, and a gift. The gift is what is given to the poor people. This is, I consider to be an important thing which even as an organization taking. Why UN peace thing and the people are more operating in third world countries, in Africa. And then there is a lot of people now talk about relevance or non-relevance of the UN. Sometimes that people say that this particular issue they have not delivered as expected. But that is not the case. There is a huge, so long as there is a poverty, so long as there is a conflict, there is a huge amount of responsibility for the United Nations. So that is how they are expected to be everywhere, wherever there is a problem. Wealth of a benevolent wise man. Valluvar talks about Pathun Marii Avanai Pasi Ennum Theepini Tindalaridu. You know that one fellow hunger will not touch. Who is a rich man? No, you may be rich, but you may have a diabetics. You may have a rich, you may not have the doctor must have denied food. And you may be rich, then you may maybe just a corona can make a difference. But Valluvar, he say, the fiery disease of hunger shall never touch him who habitually distribute his food to others. Unbelievable. This statement may look a very idealistic statement. That means, number one, that is a difference between the need and greed. So, need versus greed is basic philosophy, which Gandhi often has articulated. In a very famous quotation of Gandhi, there is enough on this planet for everyone's need, but not for everyone's greed. Thevaikum, perasaikum, there is a difference. There is a thevai. Everybody has got a need. The need hierarchy also keeps changing. In today's need, and I got a different need now, earlier, and I used to have a different need now. But there is a limit to which you earn for you, earn for family, earn for children, earn for even grandchildren. But not for the grandchildren who will be born after 300 years. Not for the grandchildren who will be born 200 years. So that is greed. One house okay, two house okay, but having 20th house, not okay. It's not good for the country, not good for the planet. One car in a family. I have seen families with 4 individuals and 5 cars. Carbon emission. You are damaging 4 family, 4 people, 5 refrigerators. Television in every room. Carbon emission. Attack on planet. So that is the reason there is not much for the greed of the people. Ara iyarkai, hava nipi, annilaye pera iyarkai taru. This Valluvar must have told in the context of some other context, but I take it as a context which can be fitted everywhere. The removal of desire means, because Valluvar is not asking everybody to renounce and go to the forest. Valluvar is advocating life. Renunciation for somebody. Valluvar talks about aram, but Valluvar, the overall philosophy is not to ask people to renounce. Asking people to live. Vayettu valvangu valudar. Ulalinidu yalidu enbar tam makkal malalai chol keladavar. Illaram enbade nallaram. Arattal illaram dhaan nallaram endu sollugira oru sirandha ilakkiyam. It advocates the family life. If such a literature talks about the removal of desire, whose nature it is never to be satisfied, it will immediately confer a nature that can never be changed. That means having a limited need has to become a nature if you deny the greed. So a great fundamental, I consider this to be economic philosophy and a political philosophy and societal philosophy. Okay. Now, Thirukkural, does he advocate against wealth? No. Thirukkural is not against wealth. Rather, Thirukkural is one of the very practical, pragmatic voice. He is asking you to make wealth. Porul allavarai porulaga cheyyum porul. That means it will make a meaning out of a meaningless fellow. It makes a worth out of a worthless fellow. Wealth has got a power. Saying a porulai, I think it's what a command. Make wealth, Thirukkural says. There is no greater weapon which can handle your enemies. Make wealth. But when it comes to the Valluvam, the end does not justify the means. He is the way of making. Wealth making, how you make wealth is an important criteria for Thirukkural. Wealth acquired sinless and well yields both virtue and happiness. Aran eenum, inbumum eenum, thiranerindu, theedindri vanda porul. This particular Thirukkural is a very, very important Thirukkural. This is one Thirukkural in which Thirukkural uses the terminologies used for the threefold division of the Thirukkural. Arathupal, Porutpal, Inbathupal. In this particular thing, Aram Enum, Inbamum Enum, Purut, provided it is coming, Thiranarindi, Tidindri Vandal. Provided it came in the right way, the wealth which came in a wrong way may put somebody in jail, will make life miserable. It will make him to feel guilt. His own family may be ashamed of it. But he says, make wealth, but properly make wealth in proper wheels. That will what provide. I consider this is my favorite poem, Thirukkural, in this entire book, because he uses all the three words and makes the things very clear. He is not against wealth. He is not against joy. Be happy. He is not against happiness, but he is for ethics, how to make it. Valluvar end does not justify the means. Palimalindu aidhiye aakathin saanrot kalilal kurave thalai. Better the poverty of the wise than the wealth got with the infamy. This is a kind of a priority which Valluvar is talking about. Okay, now we talked about the Valluvar's take on economics, poverty, hunger, distributive justice. He then, when it comes to the society, and we also talked about that Valluvar puts the onus on the governance, onus of the society, onus of the ruler, and he emphasized on the distributive justice. So then he puts a society in which education is very important. Arivudamai, Kelvi, Kalvi, Kallamai, in different angle he approaches. He talks Kalvi, I don't think he approaches that from the literacy, illiteracy, learning, hearing from the every point of view. He considers Kedil Vilichalvam, the wealth which never declines is not riches but learning. Selvathuchalvam Sevichalvam. Arivududayar Avad Arivar. That means if there is a problem, this needs a solution. Who knows what is the solution? Only the learned and the educated, learned person, he knows what is possible. Do you know that what is Avad Arivar? Avad Arivar means it's not an astrologer. What is going to come? A lot of people told that which day Corona will come, which day will go. And we must see that 2020, when they started, 6 astrologers were sitting in the TV. They were all saying that 2020 is going to be a greatest year. You will never forget it. It's going to be really the honey and gold. But I am searching for them. That Avad Arivar is not the astrologer. Avad Arivar is a man who is a practical man, who is possible, what is not possible. We normally say, na, idu agum, idu agadu. Idu kadaikkaga, idu kadaikkaga. It is practical, it is not practical. It is pragmatic, it is not pragmatic. It is feasible, it is not feasible. It is desirable, it is not desirable. That means he is what the Avad Arivar. Arivudayar, Avad Arivar. Arivilar, Agidari Halladavar. What will happen, what will not happen? Suppose imagine somebody today, when people are fighting for the oxygen, whether the bed will be available, some fellow spends all his time in just a stock exchange and selling and buying trade. Okay, fine. He may survive, he may be very happy also. But then lot of other people are trying to organize oxygen for the people. I'm finding during this particular Corona time, I have come across a lot of people. I come across many unsung heroes who are giving a call. Sir, in this 5 people are in this border, 7 people, this fellow needs to be admitted. From somewhere people are giving call. They are not related to each other. So this is a kind of society. Basically, the sustainable goal is nothing but this. The world has sustained. Society has to sustain this. It has to be feasible, but it has to find a long-lasting solution. Agriculture. I'll tell you, if the Indian society or the Indian literature, Indian sociology has to be divided into 2 parts, I have no hesitation. I have traveled all over India, except maybe 15 to 20 districts of this great nation. I have put my foot in every other district. I have met all the tribes of India. Most of the communities I have interacted. It can be probably broadly categorized the society in which a respect for agriculture is inbuilt or disrespect for the agriculture is inbuilt. That means those who respect agriculture, those who do not respect agriculture. This is how the Indian sociology can be divided. I know that there are literature in India which is putting the farmers in the hierarchy, not in first or second, and treating them as this and that, and ignore them, ill-treat them. And the big people, important people are divided, that those who touch the plow and those who not touch. If you not touch the plow, you are a great man. If you touch the plow, you are not, you are inferior. That's a sociology. But Valluvar says that Uluvar Ulagattarku Ani. If there is an axle pin for the entire world of which the globe is rotating, that is only the plowman. Ulavinar Kaimadange. If the farmers go to trouble, and nothing will stay back. Not even the great godman can survive. So that means I consider that the Sangam literature celebrated farmers. Sangam's literature celebrated agriculture. The same way Thirukkural is celebrated the agriculture. And Sangam literature looked down upon the poverty. And it talked very thing. Pasipini Maruthuvan is a terminology which Sangam literature uses. It calls it Pasi as a pini, is a disease. Anybody who is giving a food, he calls himself doctor. That means doctor of the hunger disease, Pasipini Maruthuvan in Sangam literature. A fellow who is suffering from hunger, you don't go and give him a sermon. Vivekananda will tell that don't talk philosophy before the empty stomach. Pasipini Maruthuvan. Pasipini Maruthuva means a fellow who goes with the food is the doctor for the disease called poverty. This is a Sangam literature. Sangam literature says that don't ask. It's not good. You go and beg. But refusing to give is worse than that. Same way, giving is greater. When somebody is giving, okay, no, I don't need. Somebody says that is still greater. So this philosophy, there is a continuity in the Valluvar in celebrating the agriculture and in celebrating family life. In the family life, you don't talk about the individuals. You don't talk about the country without talking about the families. Yes, people are right now talking about reconnecting the family. That kind of Vayathul Valvangu Valbavan Vanurayum Deivathul Vaikapodum. Then the Kulalini, Yalinidi. The same way, I consider one of the Thirukkural, which is applicable for many things. Aakam Karidi Mudalilakkum Seivinai, Mukkar Arivudaya. It is not wisdom to lose capital for the sake of interest. It's not a statement about business alone. It is not a statement about the enterprise alone. It is not a statement about the entrepreneurship alone. It is not a statement about budget making alone. It is a statement about the planet also. Like even sustainable statement says that there is no plan B because there is no planet B. That means the nature also is a capital. Natural endowment. We are actually thinking we have inherited the planet or we have inherited the nature and world. That is a wrong statement. In fact, we have borrowed this from the next generation. There is a statement I have read. It is not that we have inherited this planet and world. It does not belong to the us, which we have inherited as a will. Rather, we have borrowed it from the future generation. If you overspend the world, you are depleting the world. You are overspending here to over-exploiting, you are depleting the thing. If you are overspending water and depleting the groundwater, you have stolen it from the future generation. So that means, Akkam Karadi Mudalilikkum Seivinai. That means it is not wisdom to lose the capital. The world is the capital. Nature is a capital. The tree is a capital. Water is a capital. The planet is a capital. Our life is a capital. If you overspend it, there will be corona. If you overspend it, there will be pandemic. If you overspend it, there will be greenhouse effect. If you overspend it, there is a global warming. Then untimed rains, untimed cyclones, all these things will happen because we are overspending our capital for the sake of today's happiness. So that way, I would like to conclude it. Thirukkural, when this particular Thirukkural, Uru Pasi, Ova Pini, Serupagai, Seradi Yelvadu Nadu. Look at this terminology, Uru Pasi. Actually, not only hunger, Uruthigira Pasi, Urutum Pasi. Actually, tormenting, or it's a like a miserable. It's actually disturbing. Uru Pasi, Utradu, Utra Pasi, Ova Pini. The Vova Pini is something different from the Noi. The Noi of the individual. Sickness of the individual. That is spoken in Marundu. There is a separate statement. There is a separate statement. Noi Nadi, Noi Mudal Nadi, Unave Marundu, Barunde Unavu. All this thing talks about it. Pasikama Sapadada. Don't talk without feeling hunger. Talks about all this personal hygiene and personal well-being and personal health and personal disease. Valluvar talks separately. But he talks this while defining a country. If Valluvar talks about the hunger, Vova Pini, that means Vova Pini means relentless, unrelenting disease. Unrelenting in a country, if a disease is unrelenting, that is what called epidemic. Thirukkural here talks about the epidemic, not an individual health issue. He is not talking about somebody's cholesterol. Thirukkural is not talking about somebody's heart attack. He is not talking about somebody's obesity. He is talking about the disease which is suffering, collectively suffered by a country, that is called Vova Pini. Vova Pini means unrelenting, relentless. It's relentless. Lockdown after lockdown. So basically, cholera, people used to die. Thousands of people used to die of cholera before medicine. Malaria, thousands of people used to die. Then before the chloroquine and other treatments were found, the cholera, kind of disease, smallpox, so many diseases. Urupasiyum, Vova Pini. This is called Mahamari in North India. They will say Kollai Noi in Tamil. It is called Vova Pini. Serupage. That means look at the priority of a state. If I have to make a budget for a country, I must put Urupasi. I must invest in the hunger, food safety. Second thing, I must invest in the public health. This is the difference between individual health. Vova Pini can be dealt only with the public health. Community health is not about I am going to my doctor. Serupage. If you all the time, if you are having enmity with all your neighbors and others, all your money, all your budget will go to that. You will buy more warplanes. You will purchase more the aircraft carriers. Every country will invest more. Look at the country's budget. Every country investing more money in their respective armies and navies and the air force. Then they are putting their money in the food security and the public health institutions. That's a problem. So that is where I consider Thirukkural talks about the societal budget priority. I consider this to be a budget priority of a nation. Urubasi, Vova Pini, Serubagai. This should not be in a state. If this should not be in a state, mean you have to prioritize. You have to prioritize Urubasi. You have to prioritize Vova Pani, and third priority only Serubagai. So that means I consider this poetry, this couplet as a priority. Onus on the good governance, I have already told about it, yes, put it. So that way, I consider that the whole statement, which I discussed today with you, it's basically, as I already told that I was not planning to put it, this is a SDG number 1, this is a Thirukkural, SDG number 2, this is a Thirukkural, SDG number 3, this is Thirukkural. That was not my job. My job is to say that is basically the problems remain. The problem which was existing 2000 years back, even now it remains. The governance have changed. There was a monarchy. It was ruled by the kings who can behave whichever way they want. Even though he voiced the voice of the citizens, voice of the last man. And in which case, in the democracy, that voice is supposed to be more louder. He didn't have an organization like a World Health Organization, UN. I won't say that Thirukkural foresaw the creation of the United Nations. I never talked that way. But I tell that what prescription Valluvar gave, that is the same prescription. Even now we are talking about it. The issues remain. And then there is a greater amount of signpost and the guidance which is available about the priorities, the problem, societal priority, onus on the governance, and above all, the role of an individual, role of a family, role of a society, role of a ruler. But above all, I consider emphasize on the distributive justice. This distributive justice is the greatest justice of all. That is the problem the current world is facing. And also the pandemic has given, is a holding mirror before us. It is not the problem of not having. It's a problem about sharing. And then there is no point in feeling happy that 80% of the wealth is in the New York is in the 8% of the people, or all the wealths are in the 30, 40 families, or the few people. There is no point in feeling happy that this many Indians are in the Forbes 500 list. It doesn't make any great. I am not really get enthused about it. One of my fellow Indians has become a billionaire and his wealth has increased during pandemic. I am more worried about the common man. That is what Valluvar was worried about it. That is what SDG is all about it. That way, I feel that Valluvar has got a greater message where the UN must be already taking note. And I always advocate that the Thirukkural statue not to be put into in the sacred places. Thirukkural statue should be put in the Supreme Court of India. Thirukkural statue should be put in the Parliament of India. Thirukkural statue should be put in the United Nations building. Thank you very much. Vanakkam.
Well, Mikka Nandri, I must say this was the most illuminating intervention I've heard on Thirukkural, but especially Thirukkural and the UN Sustainable Development Goals. I can say I bow to you for the wisdom that you have gathered over the years in all your life experiences in various parts, in various domains of society in India and overseas. And therefore, what you gave us is very illuminating, very enlightening. And I'm sure I could see more, a quicker movement, a quicker progress towards going to UNESCO, to UN with what you've given us today. Since I have my respected Justice Mahadevan present, I would not like to myself make a comment, but I should have informed you in advance, but I was very happy to see you. You know Dr. Balakrishnan very well. You launched his book. I would prefer to have a message from you and also some other personalities present, right? But what I could say that this presentation today, and I would also recall the excellent presentation by Dr. Ashraf last Saturday, right? And a series of other presentations, you know, are the building blocks for us to take Thirukkural to UNESCO. And I would like to echo your wish, your prayer that the statues of Valluvar should be placed at the UN, apart from where you said in India, at the UN. And you know, this is what we pray we'll be able to do. We would like to have the statue of Valluvar at UNESCO, which is the temple of peace, right? And UNESCO fits in very well with Valluvar teachings, Valluvar, and the judgment on Thirukkural given by Justice Mahadevan brings in force, you know, the contribution of Thirukkural to building good citizens of the world, you know, by inculcating the values of Valluvar into their minds. And as you know, UNESCO talks of, since war begins in the minds of men, it is in the minds of men that the defenses of peace must be constructed. And here I would like to share with all of you, I had yesterday, on Friday, a very illuminating exchange with what I consider my mentor, Dr. Federico Mayor. I'm sure, Dr. Balakrishnan, you must know of him, and many of you would know he was the former Director General of UNESCO. Yes, but most importantly, he was the architect of the whole concept of culture of peace, the UN and culture of peace. He managed to get that through in 1989 at the UNESCO conference on peace in the minds of men. And this led to the UN adopting this resolution of declaring a decade of culture of peace in the world. During my interview, in fact, I talked to him. I purposely asked to talk to him to get him to give us an address on Thirukkural and world peace and UNESCO. And he's such a great erudite, you know, that. And I can tell you, after I've shared a few documents, I've shared the judgment, Justice Mahadevan with him. And I've shared also extracts from Wikipedia on comments, quotes by various eminent personalities. Some of them, I've used them in our introduction today. I shared that document with him. He picked all of them. And when we talked yesterday, he was talking about Thirukkural. This is the first time he's exposed to Thirukkural. He has got the idea. And he has agreed. I'm pleased to announce that he has agreed to address us. We will find the right timing. And I'll try to get a team of people to be together with us, right? So I would like to ask Dr. Balakrishnan to be thinking about that. I'll be sending some more information of his report on the culture of peace, which is a masterpiece, you know, and he has all the idea that we have expressed. He is fully supportive of that. And Justice Mahadevan also, I would like you to think about that. I'll be sharing some background information on the whole concept of the history of the culture of peace, and then we can put that together for his conference to us in a few weeks' time, right? So we will be consulting on the timing of that, but I am very happy that he has agreed. He's 83 years old now, but he's still very, very lucid and a great personality and a great erudite. So with these few words, let me now invite Justice Mahadevan to give us the benefit of his comments on what we have all listened to just now from Dr. Balakrishnan. Justice Mahadevan.
Thank you very much, Dr. Parasuraman. Dr. Chandrika, Mr. Balakrishnan, Mr. Rajendran, Janasekharan, and Mr. Ashraf. Vanakkam. See, Mr. Balakrishnan inspired all of us by his unique speech, by his knowledge, by his expertise in kural and mastery. I enjoyed every single minute of it, of course, all of us. I felt his passion and joy for Thirukkural. Valluvar covers the whole spectrum of human experiences, and he believed that the very natural world, the liberated man alone can find his heaven. That is what transpired from the extraordinary speech by Mr. Balakrishnan. He touched poverty, he spoke about agriculture, he spoke about every aspect of kural. By his extraordinary speech, Balakrishnan made us to understand Thirukkural is the guiding light to humanity. It leads one to live in moral purity, external wisdom, spiritual knowledge, perfect prosperity, wealth and health, everything. See, wealth is not to be earned for the purpose of self-indulgence or for the satisfaction and greed of an individual. Wealth should be treated as the citizen's instrument for helpfulness combined with the sense of duty. Good man always put industry and produce wealth not for themselves, but for the use of the society. That is what Mr. Balakrishnan, in an extraordinary way, explained us. There is no pleasure in this world equal to the joy of being helpful to those around us. Do not lose the opportunity for this rare pleasure. That is what Thiruvallur says. Irandum uyirvaldal vendin parandu keduga ulagiyatiyam. Man is born as a social being. He alone truly lives who functions as a social cooperator. And he recognizes this duty to be counted. Otherwise, you'll be treated as a dead person. So, very happy to join with you all here with an extraordinary speech by Mr. Balakrishnan, who always involves with the kural and the development of the society in total. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. We can agree. If we have some other comments or question you would like to address to Dr. Balakrishnan, but thank you very much, Justice Mahadevan. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Dr. Chandrika.
So you have insisted that the statute should be placed in Supreme Court of India, and now we have the new government and you are part of it. I think you should initiate this so that we can have Valluvar in New Delhi.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We appreciate that.
I must commend Dr. Chandrika for having a kural, a Valluvar chair in the North South Wales, I think, no, in University in Australia,
Western Sydney in
and
Sydney.
holding a function in the Parliament of North South Wales also on kural.
We have a chair in. We have a chair in.
Every year.
Yeah, we have a chair in. I want to say, we have a chair in Utkal University of Culture, which is one of the first culture university. In 2000, the Tamil Nadu government gave a 10 lakhs, and we established a Thirukkural chair here. And so I think that the next step we should collectively take up the idea of taking Thiruvallur statue. See, statues are symbolism. But then yes. I normally don't make this statement because I am made to make this statement because that there are sometimes the symbols are more important. Yes. And then where you put that statue is very, very important. Because yes. Even my Natural, which the Valluvar Kudumbam is the sole reason for it. It evolved out of it, and Justice Mahadevan released it in a grand function. But that was in response to the Ageni, where we felt that Thiruvallur statue, where we know that where to put it. And then the place where we want to see it is in the secular parliament and in the highest chief justice or the kind of Supreme Court of India, not in any religious place. That's what.
Exactly. If I may just add one word on the idea of the statue, for us organizing this conference, taking UNESCO to the world, our prayer is that we could install a statue of Valluvar at UNESCO.
Very much.
Because
UNESCO is a UN. See, so
but the way forward, and this is where we would need all of us joining together. See, whatever we can all pull together to reach that goal, we'll need the state government of Tamil Nadu. As you know, the former government had instituted a committee on UNESCO and Thirukkural. The committee was formed. We had a few meetings. I'm also a member of that committee. I hope now this will be reactivated, and we will be writing to the Chief Minister. By the way, we congratulated the new Chief Minister, and we hope that in line with what his father did, the great work Dr. Karunanidhi did for Valluvar, for Thirukkural, with the Valluvar Kuttam, with Kanyakumari statue, I'm sure that he will also be inspired and support this initiative of taking Thirukkural to the world. So number one step will be the state government full involvement. But number two, very important, is the central government of India. I've written a letter to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Jaisankar, and making an appeal for central government to support us. You know full well, Dr. Balakrishnan, if you go to UNESCO, you need the central government, the National Commission for UNESCO, to be fully involved, because they are dealing with the UN.
Yeah,
so
we should make this effort to take with the government of Tamil Nadu as well as union government. And then fortunately you have our permanent representative, Dr. Trimurthy, right now India's permanent representative in UN. And he certainly knows much about Thirukkural. Yes. And recently they also took up the issue which Orissa basically spearheaded by bringing the millets like Kelvaragu and Kambu, Varagai, Samai. We created something called Millet Mission in Orissa. And then the government of India declared 2018 as the year of millet. Now, through the government of India, 70 countries supported. Last December, a resolution has been passed, making 2023 as the year of millet. So that means a concerted effort has to be taken. I entirely welcome. I'd be very happy to be involved in this process.
Very good. Thank you. I invite all of you. Let's all of us together pull out all our efforts to move that. And I know Prime Minister Narendra Modi regularly quotes Thirukkural, as we know. In many of his important speeches, he would always refer to quote Thirukkural. So let's try to galvanize and get all the support so that we can have a firm commitment from central union government and state government. Both of them will take the cause to UNESCO Paris. That is the key to the success of all that we want to achieve, at least what we want to achieve during our lifetime. And that's why we are progressing along this line. So we'll continue to discuss and take this matter forward. And then I would allow a few other questions also or comments. Mr. Rajendran, would you like to add? And I'll ask Dr. Ashraf.
No, already there are 3-4 are waiting, sir. And
fine, go ahead. Tell me who are.
Dr. Ramesh, please go ahead.
Yes, please.
Sir, this is one of the excellent speeches I ever listened to. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are.
Thanks for this wonderful opportunity to listen and put everything together. My question is, we talk about the pain of poverty, but the onus of responsibility, whom to put? The governance or illiteracy or the belief system of the people or the so-called religious principles, which is there any role of religious principles on this poverty? And above everything, people talk so much about religious differences and philosophies, but no one is talking about poverty to that extent. I want comments from Balakrishnan, sir.
Yeah, it's a brilliant question. The answer is a mix of everything. Whomsoever the stakeholders you mentioned, each one of them are responsibility. I consider this to be a basic nature and culture of taking responsibility. I'm telling you, you mentioned that whether it's an individual is responsible, whether the society or a government or a religious, that means responsibility means everybody taking responsibility. Take a small example. During this particular pandemic, if somebody thought about the people known to us, the maid who was working or once upon a time worked for me, or the driver who worked for me, or that particular individual who due to the lockdown lost job, whether he is safe, whether he needs money, or whether people immediately stopped their salary. There are institutions continue to pay their salaries. There are institutions immediately retrenched. There are institutions, there are people who are ringing for the people who are walking and feeling very bad about it from the Chennai border. But there are people who refused money for the ticket and let it go. And we forgot our migrant laborers. Unpardonable, let me tell you. We must suffer from the collective guilt for all the people who walked in the Indian highways. What you need, some few hundred crores of rupees, somebody has to put it in their ticket. And then it is about everybody's religious everybody's responsible. Religion, how it will be responsible, I must tell you. During this particular pandemic, there are some institutions responded by giving food and massaging the feet of the people who are walking and applying oil and cream to the people. I have seen it. The langars have been converted into the food in Delhi. And then what the religion is teaching you, if it is not teaching you to by the side of the sufferer, that is not the religion. So that means it is like whether it's a governance, individual, society, the testing time is the normal time is not. Only abnormal time. I already made a statement. Pandemic or the disaster bring out the heroes in ordinary men, villains in the heroes, jokers in the important people. So that means it exposes everybody. That's also you come out. So this is a mirror which is before us. We have to answer this question. I would put it in a nutshell. This problem is about taking responsibility. That means individual taking responsibility, family taking responsibility, government taking responsibility, a mill owner taking responsibility, United Nations taking responsibility. The common word is responsibility. Different people at their own sphere, if they take a responsibility and the problems is solved. It's not about not having a food. It is not about, it's an inability. You know that we do not know how to distribute. We want this card. We want that card. We want this identity, that identity. We want to measure this much calorie. Then thousands of tons of food material is rotting in the Godawn. That is what Amartya Sen keeps always telling. The distributive justice is an Amartya Sen keep advocating about it. The famines is not about lack of stock. The famine is about the failure of the distribution. So that way we have to take responsibility. Each one of us is responsible.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Next is Naveen. He is holding a hand for a long time.
I just wanted to thank you for a meeting of great minds, and also thank Professor Parasuraman for inviting me to your meeting today.
Yeah.
It was very inspiring. I want to thank also Balakrishnan for sharing his ideas and philosophies for the betterment of humankind. My take of today is we need to find solutions to problems, right? So it's been really inspiring and enlightening. So what it brings to me is, rather than seeing differences, we need to see similarities in many philosophies. So if we take responsibility means looking within yourself. It's about mindfulness. And there's an awakening happening in this year, 2021, that wisdom and knowledge is free. At the click of a button, either through Professor Google or Wikipedia, you can find data. But the key is how you're going to connect this data and practice what you preach. So the solution is, if you give a man a fish, you will feed him for a day. And if you teach him how to fish, you will feed him for a lifetime. And that's my take on things. Thank you very much.
Fine. So basically, I always talk about it. That's a Chinese proverb. That's about skill developing. We strive very hard in empowering people, basically making the people more skilled. Both the articulation has to simultaneously take place. On one side, we have to enable and make the skill, enhancing skill and making them ready for the facing the world. On another side, simultaneously, the welfare state must function. The welfare, in the absence of a welfare state, when all are not equal, and a government cannot be neutral, a system cannot be neutral, because all are not equal. The inequality is inbuilt. So that means there are many amount of inequality in terms of physical ability or in terms of the societal compulsions. There are many ways are there. Both has to go hand. Both are not mutually exclusive. That means it's not mutually exclusive. It can go together. Thank you very much, Mr. Naveen.
If I may just add one word, Pope Francis, when COVID broke out, when there was the COVID-19, you know what he said? I pray that all political leaders do not serve only their partisans, but serve the whole community without distinction. You see, for the Pope to say that, I'm sure he has an insight into what's happening. And we've seen, even in spite of the pandemic, how many governments have unfortunately not followed this wise principle of serving the whole nation. So I believe that's a good thought also. So all of us has to be guided by that. And I am confident that with this inspiration that we have with Thirukkural, the teachings of Valluvar, I'm sure we are moving forward towards this great movement of world peace. Any other comment, Dr. Rajan, Mr. Rajendran?
Mr. Paramasivam has raised his answer. Mr. Paramasivam, please.
Yeah, thanks, sir. Thanks, sir. Actually, one comment I wanted to make. Actually, you said point by point for the 17 goals, you are not going to make it. But I think it will be really worth somebody, if you help somebody to do it, because the question is that visibility of our great sage Valluvar outside Tamil Nadu is, really poor even now, even after so many efforts of so many people. And these are the measures that will help. If UN get visibility, world get visibility, and the effort that will be required for giving for these 17 goals, because these 17 goals are the real goals that can get addressed very effectively, as you have shown in this last 50 minutes, sir. We can do it. I mean, if you are busy and you are not able to do it, I mean, there are battery of people who will be able to do it under your guidance.
Mr. Paramasivam, thanks very much. In fact, I didn't do it because number one, for want of time, for a structured talk like this, which will be for an hour or 1.5 hours, it will be difficult to make a kind of table 17 fitted. Fitting these 17 goals into the Thirukkural, and people like Rajendran and Ashraf and me and many other my friends involved, it's a matter of a week's job. That's not a problem at all. We can hand over a goal and the relevant numbers of Thirukkural and give it to you. That's not a difficult job. I think documentation can be easily made.
So on the lighter side, distributive justice for Valluvar is required, sir. It is not there.
I would add to that, Dr. Balakrishnan, and following the remarks made. I think we are still, it's work in progress what we are doing. You know, I think it would be great for us if we can do that exercise of connecting kural perspective on the SDGs, you know, and this will be a document which not only goes to UNESCO then, it will go to the UN. And using your Indian representative in the UN and also the UN representative at UNESCO, we can build up this momentum to reach that. I believe this is a good way forward also. So we'll think about it. So Dr. Balakrishnan, what Mr. Paramasivan mentioned, I think is hinting at the fact, as we did with Dr. Ashraf last week, that you have to come back and give us more. I don't think this is enough with your caliber, with your experience. You have to give us more. So we'll be very honored to have you again with us at some point based on your convenience. And also Dr. Honorable Justice Mahadevan opened this series of conference for us on the 15th of January, on the very special day of Valluvar Day. And this year, he opened this conference for us, inaugurates it, and we are already talking to him to come back again, because we need to build up on all those illuminating speeches and foundation we are laying so that we can reach that goal. So I would look at the continuation of the series of conferences along this line, and when we got Federico Mayo to join us and other eminent personalities, you know, that would really build up the case for it. And I would invite, probably I think we have one more person, Mr. Rajendran, before Dr. Ashraf can give us his observation. Mr. Rajendran, you have another speaker another person who's...
Nobody else has raised the hand, sir. So Ashraf can go. Yeah, please.
Mr. Soma Virappan before.
No, I'm not raising my hand. I'm not raising my hand. I'm just saying that I'm fine. I don't have any questions to ask. I would like to only supplement whatever the missing information which you all mentioned, looking for the respective couplets to try to fit in. That is what I just wanted to say. But otherwise, thanks for the presentation. It was wonderful to hear Bala after some time. Probably I'm hearing it for the second time. He's speaking in English. Usually we hear him talking in Tamil. So we would like to hear him more talking in English in future. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Soma Virappan.
Hello. Namaste, everybody. It was a very heart-touching type of talk. Certain phrases, certain kurals which Bala sir quoted will be lingering on in our ears for many more years to come. Pasippini Maruthuvar. Pasippini Maruthuvar. There are only two types of people in this world. People who respect agriculture and people who do not respect agriculture. மேதினியில் இட்டார் பெரியோர் இடாதார் இழிகுலத்தோர்னு முன்னாடி கேட்டிருக்கோம். இப்ப இவர் ரெண்டு விதமா பிரிக்கிறார். ஓவா பிணின்னு சொல்லிட்டு we are not talking about obesity அப்படின்னு சொல்றார். He has his own method of talking. I think all of us enjoyed. I have only one question for him. If the world has to change, I think either individuals have to change or the governments have to change. I don't mean changing of government from one party to another. I am talking about changing of attitudes of governments. Bala sir correctly told about Attar Aribasi Tirthalakturun Petran Purul Vaipudi ella சொன்னார் அவர். மனிதர்கள் மாற வேண்டும் சொன்னாரு. உங்க டிரைவர் எப்படி இருக்காருன்னு நீங்க யோசிக்கலான்னு கேட்டார். உங்க சர்வன்ட் மேடுக்கு பணம் கொடுக்கணுமான்லாம் கேட்டார். அதே சமயத்துல இன்னொரு முக்கியமான கேள்வி 734வது குறள்ல உருபசியும் ஓவாப்பணியும் செருபகையும் சேராது இயல்வது நாடு. The hunger, the disease and the enemies. How are we going to tackle all these three things? This is the quality of a great nation, he told. I think here is where the UNESCO's or United Nations role comes. We are spending so much of money on weapons which destroy human beings. If we compare the percentage of budgets devoted to poverty elimination or removal of diseases vis-a-vis annihilation of human beings. I think what can be done about this? How to change the attitude of governments? Some reflections from Mr. Bala. Namaste.
Yeah, the answer is straight away. I call the individuals, people basically, people only make the government and people get the government they deserve. That is the democracy's greatest thing and all. So it's a basically mirror. And then the way we talk about it and all, I think that we need to create a responsible society. Suppose that people need to understand that they can survive without katrikai. They can certainly, they will not lose their life if they don't eat a mutton for a week, or for that matter, even a vegetable. Like say, even the crowd in the jewelry shops when the 2 days shops were open, and the crowd in the clothing and the textile shops are not a great deal. Actually speaking, we need to know the responsibility. You are spreading to somebody else. So that responsible society, I tell you, they are all educated. And the educated people talk about it. They spread rumors, they spread WhatsApp, and they give all kind of advice. There are many people are dying because of following wrong advices. So that means we have to build education. Does not mean the clarity. See, it is not the clarity. Actually, taking responsibility is something different, being a literate or illiterate. I don't know the percentage of the literacy of Sangam age, at least, but I know the literacy of the India when India got the freedom. When India got the freedom in 1947, our literacy rate is only 16%. It became 18% in 1951. So that means we created great poets. So it is not about the percentage of literacy. A lot of people, educated people, now new information is coming. People have already done corona positive and 5 days before, but they still come and roam around and they keep on asking, meeting doctor. So that doctor says, today I read it. He says that you go and do the test positive. No, already I done it on 19. I said, why didn't you tell earlier how many people you met? So these are basically, you cannot put everything on the court of the government. You have to basically, it's a collective responsibility. And if we don't reduce the need, actually, at least if this particular introspection result in owning less shirts, owning less cars, and owning less land, and purchasing less houses, then the world will be a better place. The reason is that at least they should know that this doesn't make much of a difference. I tell you how the cities operate. You see the difference between Mumbai and Delhi. I'm telling you, in Mumbai, people stand in queue. I have seen many times. Nobody regulate a queue. Bus comes, people stand in queue. That city has managed the pandemic, greater pandemic, huge slums in Dharavi. They managed it better. Then there are other cities are there, but that's what I already mentioned. There is a Dalal street in Mumbai, but in every street there is a Dalal in some other city. But then you will face it. Like suppose you have money. I remember I was in Delhi. There was a plague in Surat or somewhere in Gujarat thing. So then there is a lot of chaos. People say that tetracycline will help you from that thing. I know in Delhi, people who immediately send their driver buy tetracycline for 10,000 rupees or 5,000 rupees. All the thing in the shop they purchased and kept it in the house. I know the people who set up ventilators at their home. It doesn't help. Simply because you have money, you cannot buy all the ventilators and keep it in your home. So this is precisely, it's a mirror for our society. And it's something terribly wrong. It's something terribly wrong, and we need to introspect. There's no point in putting the blame on governance alone. And we talk the talk. I can say I am speaking you from Orissa. And our government took a call that no man will walk in Orissa. He may belong to Orissa or may belong to Bihar or belong to Jharkhand or Bengal. If he is reaching our border from any place, he will not be let to walk in the streets of the roads of Orissa. We put a separate team for it, made a separate allotment, separate police wing. We created separate camps. They were given vehicle, given money and treatment. Nobody walked here. It may not be the richest state in this country, but people walked in other places.
See, today's the message is excellent. I wish to spare only one point regarding this elimination of poverty. So actually, the lot things are as discussed about this poverty and hunger today. Really, it's a very nice topic at the present scenario. Only one thing, what we are going to do for this elimination of poverty, just showing hands to the government and all. As a Valluvar family, we have to do some steps for eliminating this poverty, at least in and around our places. So that is the thing that's not in my mind. And what we will do, and Rajendran sir and Balakrishnan sir are also here. What are all the steps we will do for this elimination of poverty within a short limit?
Helena, I wanted to answer her. All of you must have read Starvation Death in Orissa as a news item in 1980s and 1980s and 90s. You would not be reading such a news item in the last 10 years.
Oh, okay.
The same society, same state. The reason is very simple. Earlier, if somebody dies of a hunger or a lack of food or nutrition, people will make politics out of it, say that it is a hunger, death and all this thing, newspaper item, TV, everybody will run a huge sensational thing. We found a solution sometime in 2003 for that. I happened to be at that time Special Relief Commissioner in charge of handling this kind of things. So we came out with a simple solution. We told that if somebody is feeling hungry, not having food, who would know about it? The Chief Secretary or the collector or the sub-collector? The man who will know about somebody starving is only his neighbor and the person who is living in the street or living in the ward. What we did that, we gave a pro forma and gave the empowered first thing, if somebody is feeling hungry, he has nothing to eat. And then that ward member of that particular panchayat, he will immediately give him from out of, not from his pocket. We have enough grain. For 10 days food, the sarpanch is authorized to give for the first 10 days. Then BDO is authorized to give for 1 month. Sub-collector is authorized to give him a free food for the 2 months. Collector is authorized to give for the 3 months. RDC authorized for 6 months. Then if somebody is still starving after 6 months, he should come to government. In the meanwhile, you would enroll him in the Food for Work program. We should take care of his health, send an ambulance to him, check with the doctor, and put him into Antyodaya scheme for the free rice. All these things should be done. We gave a pro forma. Last 10 years, no news came out. The reason is very simple. You have to tackle hunger where it takes place. It cannot be, the solution cannot be parachuted down. It doesn't come from the heavens, but it comes from the next street. For that, people have to be empowered. The moment you tell that you are the responsible, we wrote in the all the walls of the street in the villages, if you are hungry, if you are not having a food, approach your ward member or sarpanch. So now he knows that whom to approach. Suppose he doesn't act, whom to take to task. Suppose imagine if somebody saying the survey, I will first question ask what that sarpanch did without giving him a food. I will ask that BDO. I will ask that sub-collector. I will ask the collector. But the earlier system was the Supreme Court passed an order. Anybody die of hunger, the Chief Secretary should appear in the Supreme Court. Chief Secretary appearing in the court is not going to solve the problem. But what is going to solve the problem? The making that particular street and that village responsible, that is what we have done it. Last 10 years, you will not find a single news item from Orissa that somebody died of hunger. Very simple. Same system, same society. It's a distributive justice. That's all.
Excellent, sir. Excellent, sir. That is the question which was in my mind. Because if we, what you told, if we select in each ward who are all the people in hunger likewise, within a month, I think we will solve the problem in and around our place. Everybody in such a place, in a town or in a village, if they take care of their village or 2 or 3 streets likewise, I hope we will also overcome the problem as in Orissa. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Helena. I would like just to add one last word to what Dr. Balakrishnan has said in response to Helena's question. It's precisely what we are trying to do also in Mauritius. I'm wearing my hat now of the Global Rainbow Foundation. The foundation I set up to serve persons with disability after I retired from UNESCO in 2011. And my inspiration is certainly Valluvar, but also Mahatma Gandhi, who said, the true measure of any society can be found in how it treats its weakest, its most vulnerable members. What we did when COVID-1 broke out, we couldn't go out and help the people. They couldn't come to us also because of lockdown. So what we did, we identified those people who don't have food. And we launched a campaign of distributing food pack to the most needy. We've reached some 2,000 families across the island, big and small place we could do it. But we've done that. And now, what we are precisely doing, Mr. Dr. Balakrishnan, we've identified among the 2,000 needy persons whom we gave food pack, I go back to my main focus, persons with disability. We've identified 200 of those who are disabled and are needy, and every month we are going to distribute to them food pack of basic necessities. So I believe each one of us we can do it ourselves, or if we can't do it, we can subscribe, we can contribute to organization doing it. And that, I think, should come from each one of us. And this is, again, the teachings of Valluvar, as you rightly pointed out, in terms of what each one of us should do. So by each one of us doing our part, collectively, we can reach that global movement of eradication of poverty. Thank you. I just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Rajan, and I would invite you to give the concluding vote of thanks.
First of all, let me thank Dr. R. Balakrishnan, a friend of mine, and he worked at all level, right from the district level and at the state level, at the national level. 30 state elections he has conducted. Parliament election he has conducted. 2 parliament elections he has conducted. He was a deputy election commissioner. He has seen the people. He moved with the people. He is not the bureaucrat who worked from ivory towers. He knows the ground reality. He knows the pain of the people at the bottom of the pyramid. So the policies at the macro level, not only at the macro level, policies need to be made, and the policies need to be implemented. And he has got a complete, the whole range of experience, the whole spectrum of experience. And with that, today he made an excellent presentation. I must thank him for his time and presentation, especially what he is, 2 points I would, distributive justice he was talking about. We got Honorable Mr. Justice Mahadevan with us. He's the one who set the ball rolling of this series of conference in English, a monthly series in English, because we want to reach out to Thirukkural to non-Tamil, non-Indian audience. This is the whole purpose of this one, and not only merely the literary value, but the practical value, the application of it. So today, that way, it's a very, very enlightening presentation. The distributive justice we are talking about, and distributive responsibility is also you highlighted it. It's not the state alone. Yes, state has got the primary responsibility. Even Valluvar condemns the state when a person is dying of hunger, when he is suffering of hunger. He blames, he puts the blame on be it God or be it King. So state cannot escape its responsibility. The pandemic, we are going through very tough phases, but I'm telling you, all the state governments and central government, they are trying to do their best. And recently, Tamil Nadu government and Kerala government was announced, how the orphan children will be taken care of. So UNESCO's theme is building peace in the minds of men and women. That peace cannot be built on a hungry stomach. That is what the core theme of today's message, and how poverty alleviation is a crux of the matter. Once poverty alleviation steps are taken, you educate them to stand on their own leg. So education is important, health is important. You addressed all the dimensions. As one of the participants, Mr. Paramasivam was mentioning, with the help of Ashraf, we will try to map all the SDG of UN, because this is the document which need to be at some stage and need to be argued, presented to the union government here in India and United Nations, UNESCO. So with the help of Ashraf, anything can be done. His last presentation of Ashraf was really, he is compared with the world literature and world religions. Really a very astonishing presentation. So we will, under your guidance, because your experience in governance will help us to precisely put which chapter where. So we will try to map that. And and as far as this leadership of this series is concerned, Dr. R. Parasuram with his rich experience as a Minister for Education and Science in Mauritius. I always wonder, the small is beautiful. Like, Singapore was, when I was in Singapore, the mission for 4 years, I could see the governance in close quarters. So Dr. Aruma Parasuraman, with rich experience, he wanted to translate that experience into the global level. And his experience in UNESCO, he wanted to take it to that level, actually. Similarly, Dr. Chandrika Subramaniam, she closely moves with she's a lawyer by profession. She closely moves with the elected representatives in Australia. So similarly, Parth Sardi has got a global exposure. He was in Washington for 17 years, and he is the backbone of. He is the man who is not there in the screen, but he is the backbone of the whole technical support. So this team, with the help of all of you, each one of you, it's our collective responsibility. It's a collective responsibility to see that Thirukkural is taken to the world stage. You see that not only Thirukkural statue, the Thirukkural in applied Thirukkural has to be there, practiced by UN and UNESCO, and we will see that the day is not far off. So once again, I thank Dr. Aruma Parasuraman, Chandrika, Parthari, and all the participants, especially Honorable Mr. Justice R. Mahadevan, because he is the one who has created a lot of buzz about Thirukkural in Tamil Nadu and elsewhere. And Aruma Parasuraman is the single torch bearer of the judgment. He has got it translated in French. He has got it translated in local language, Creole, I think. So he is that judgment. He is a fan of him, and he is the judgment, the content of the judgment. He wants to be read by everyone who matters. So once again, a special thanks to you for this extraordinary effort, sir. And I thank all the participants. I thank all the, so far we have completed 6, and the 7th one, we are also trying to, non-Indian speakers, we want to present to the audience. So I also request Dr. Ashraf, on this occasion, he's in touch with a non-Indian English-speaking gentleman and a Japanese gentleman. Both are got a very good knowledge about Thirukkural. They have done their translated knowledge. I mean, they have translated Thirukkural in English and Japanese language. Ashraf is in touch with them. Similarly, Dr. Chandrika is in touch with the local elected representative. We will bring, we will bring the speakers from all over the world, so that their perspective is very, very important. Their experience is very, very important. Each one of us adds value to the whole cause. So this series, with all your support, kindly mail us if you have any name. Kindly, tell your friends the efforts of, this need to be shared responsibility, and this need to spread throughout the world. So please tell the friends about this lecture series in English. And I thank everyone for your patience and sparing time on a Sunday. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Vanakkam. Nandri.
We'll sign off.
Vanakkam.